Welcome to the Awesemo EarlyBird podcast. I'm your old pal Emac coming to you on a Friday night as we gear up for the first look Saturday action in the NBA. I am joined by one Adam Ship My Money Share. Adam, are you getting ready, geared up for hopefully a nice sweat as the games are the second wave of games have just begun on Friday night?
Yeah, so far can't complain. I don't think I've had anything really wreck my night so far. My guys that are struggling are cheap enough that they can rebound in the second half. Have a bunch of Cody Zeller and Wendell Carter off to nice starts. So knock on wood, so far so good.
There we are. We will see. You can check us out at around 11 o'clock on Saturday morning. We will go game by game through the 8-game slate here. Tonight, we're going to go position by position to give you our first look and just the baseline of where you want to be and what you want to start looking for. We do have a lot of back-to-backs as everybody had a nice little break around Christmas, but we're seeing these come in waves now, and that'll happen for the next day or two. But we do have, 8 games. There is a 5 o'clock game. It's Brooklyn and Milwaukee. We're not going to worry about that one. But teams on a back-to-back. We have Charlotte at Washington. Both teams are on a back-to-back. Cleveland and Atlanta, both teams back-to-back. Denver at Phoenix. Once again, both teams on a back-to-back. And then San Antonio Spurs at the Lakers. Wait for it. Both teams on a back-to-back. The other 4 games, the teams are not involved, so they've been sort of fair. The only game we don't have a line on yet is the New York Knicks at Utah. There are some questions about one, I almost said Rajon Rondo. Ricky Rubio has a sore knee and a sore back. So we'll have to see what happens with him. With regards to some of the other injuries, well, pretty much everybody for the Wizards is a mess. John Wall has a bruised heel. He could be out for a couple days, maybe longer. He's going to go see a specialist. We had Markieff Morris was out. They are just down to the dregs there, of course. Chris Paul is still out. We know that Dante Exum, who finally had his looked like he was getting his mojo back, he hurt himself again. Tim Hardaway Jr. is questionable. He missed the last game with the flu, so we'll have to see what happens with him. Once again, Rodney Hood is dealing with an Achilles injury, so he is most likely going to be out for. I've seen interesting things, but probably another few games at least while they check that out. Taurean Prince is, of course, out. Otto Porter still out. Jay Crowder potentially could be out. He hurt his shooting thumb, I believe. So he missed the last game. That was his first miss of the year, but he will be questionable, if not out. And I just don't want to muck around with somebody that has hurt their shooting thumb. I think that hits the majority of everybody. Of course, we'll have to see what the hell's going on with Alex Len, who has been day-to-day. And then Tristan Thompson. There's an intriguing one, Adam. They say he's getting close to coming back. We'll have to see what happens because we saw on Friday someone that was supposedly a few days away became available to play, and that was one Pau Gasol. That game has not yet come underway, so we'll have to find out if he gets any minutes at all. But the NBA has been relatively good, but the one intriguing thing that we have seen is some players pop back a little earlier than usual. Any other ones that stand out to you there that perhaps I missed there, Adam?
No, I think you covered them.
All right, well, let's turn it over to you for a little bit here. You've got point guard. The floor is yours.
Yes, I mean, starting at the top amongst the true point guards, putting off James Harden for the shooting guard position, you have a rematch with Steph Curry and Dame Lillard in Portland this time. The same reasons I liked Curry the last time they played, make me like him again here. The Golden State rotation has been different over the last, about handful of games, and you have Steph Curry and Kevin Durant being staggered more away from each other to where around 25% of Steph Curry's minutes can be expected to be played without Durant on the floor. And going back to last season, that just makes a really big difference for Curry. When he plays alongside Draymond Green without Durant since the start of last season, he's averaged about 1.6 DraftKings points per minute, as opposed to, I think it's about 1.3 when he's on the floor with all of the starting units. So getting about 25% of his minutes without Durant certainly increases his ceiling. It increases his median projection. And then also with this Golden State team just not being as good as they've been in the past and not blowing teams out, you're seeing Steph Curry play huge minutes more often than not in line for, 36 to 38 minutes in competitive games. The price tag's still very, very reasonable. So, I really love him at the top. And then on the other side, you have Dame Lillard, who not as appealing a play for me, but he is really cheap and he does have that ceiling where if you pair him with Curry, you can put yourself in a really, really good situation in tournaments.
All right, so looking at some of our cheaper options here. Hey, we can finally say that Emmanuel Mudiay, at least on DraftKings, it recognized him. It became self-aware and said, hey, wait a second. You're Emmanuel Mudiay. You haven't topped 30 fantasy points, but once in your last 5 games, perhaps we should not have you over $6,000. He's down to $5,700. That brings him back a little bit into the conversation. Collin Sexton, a little bit intriguing here at $5,200. Intriguing because he will be going against Atlanta, both teams again on a back-to-back in that one. And then we have a whole host of options here from Denver. Your mileage may vary, but they are playing the Phoenix Suns in Phoenix. So we're going to be looking to a lot of fill-ins from that game. Anybody else here down in the discount bin that you're intrigued by, Adam?
I agree with you on Sexton, especially. We've seen Cleveland play in a bunch of really unappealing games lately. And, obviously as a team, they are very unappealing. They're full of basketball players who aren't very good. But now you get them going into Atlanta, which is as big a boost in pace as you can get. And they are dealing with some injuries. Obviously we'll have to see news heading into this game, but they had, I believe it was 9 bodies for their game on Friday. And there it didn't really make a difference because it was just such an unappealing game. I didn't want to roster them anyway. But if that's going to be the case against Atlanta, guys like Collin Sexton become really, really interesting.
All right, let's head on over here to shooting guard. Of course, you did mention that we were saving James Harden. I'll leave that one for you, but he will be going against the Pellies, who are on a back-to-back. Should be a lovely, spirited affair, even though we do know that Houston is not playing as fast as we normally expect them. Not really great on defense either, so I think looking to some of the Pelicans may not be a bad option. This will be the first game going off here. Goodness, what time do these games start? Let me double check here. But what do you like here with regards to Harden? You want to look at Drew Holiday? Anybody else here at the 2 guard?
Yeah, I like Harden. He's really disappointed in these last few games without Chris Paul, but the opportunity's still been there. And this is obviously a much more appealing spot than it was against Boston. Boston, a team that ranks in the middle of the pack in pace. They're one of the best defensive teams in the NBA. New Orleans plays really fast, and they do not play particularly well on the defensive end. You have James Harden averaging about a 42% usage rate without Chris Paul on the floor this season, a 54% assist percentage, averaging nearly 1.8 fantasy points per minute without Paul or Carmelo on the floor. And in addition to the increased per minute productivity, you have Harden playing huge minutes. He played 38 and a half minutes against Boston. He played 39 the game before that against Oklahoma City on Christmas. And we've seen earlier this year that he actually has eclipsed 40 minutes in games without Chris Paul, quite often. So really just nothing but upside for Harden. And the price tag's going up kind of slowly. I still think that he's underpriced. And the important thing to keep in mind is that we haven't seen him really put it all together in any of these games. So you don't want to look at the results and be like, okay, so Harden's going to score 60 to 65, because in the first 2 games, he shot about 38 to 40% from the field, still scored, 64 and 66 fantasy points. And then against Boston, he shot really well from 3. He had, I believe, 9 3-pointers, but he didn't really contribute anything in terms of rebounds or assists. Normally, he's going to contribute in all of those categories. And I think sooner rather than later, you're going to see like an 80-point game from Harden.
All right, thank you. I got a little confused there. I'd written that game down backwards, saying it was at Houston. And I'm like, wait a second, why is the game in Houston starting at 7 o'clock? No. It's in New Orleans. It's in New Orleans. The world is all good. We have 2 games starting at 7. We have Houston in New Orleans, and then we have the Wizards hosting Charlotte. Bradley Beal probably going to play about a million minutes on Friday night. We'll have to see what happens, but it looks like no John Wall. He was dealing with the flu, and he was not at shoot-around, but he is going to be playing a ton of minutes on Friday. I'm assuming he'll have an IV and then head on home to Washington. So intriguing matchup with him against Charlotte there. On the other side, of course, we have Jeremy Lamb, 6,100 on DraftKings. That one seems a little bit interesting. And then we have Klay Thompson all the way down to 6,000. That's the lowest we have seen him in the last month or so. He is going against the Trailblazers in Portland. I like those three guys there. Start us off at the top with Beal, who is still going to be cheap, but he may be a little tuckered out, and the illness and the travel conspiring against him. What do you think about Beal, even at this delicious 7,900 price tag on DraftKings?
I think it's definitely going to be a spot where we want to pay attention to exactly how many minutes he played last night. That game's still going on right now, so don't have an answer there. But, if that game were to go to overtime or something, I'd be concerned. Otherwise, I think that Beal's price is just low enough that any risks that come with him are acceptable. Because if you go back to the start of last season and you look at his minutes without John Wall, without Howard, without Keith, without Austin Rivers, without Otto Porter, he's played about 390 minutes before Friday night's game, and he had a 34% usage rate and nearly a 30% assist percentage. The price tag is just so cheap for how many minutes he plays in a spot where he should be more productive than normal that it's just really difficult for him to fail. And he obviously, has an enormous ceiling. So unless we get, an overtime or double overtime game or something, and his minutes become a concern along with the fatigue, I think the price tag is just too good to pass up.
All right. Scrolling down here, Lamb, Batum, anybody else from Charlotte or any others cheapies here?
I like Lamb. He's been playing a bunch of minutes. And again, check and see what happened on Friday. Charlotte's rotation has been pretty volatile this season. But if we can from 34 to 36 minutes, it's obviously a really good matchup against Washington. I think it's a better matchup for him than it even is for Klay Thompson, than it is for CJ McCollum, and both of those are perfectly fine matchups as well. But against a Washington team that just does not rebound and does not play defense, I think you could see one of those bigger Jeremy Lamb games where he actually contributes some peripherals as well.
All right. One of the things I want to point out there for Charlotte, I read this random article last week, but I thought it kind of pertinent here when you brought up the rotation. So Malik Monk and a couple of the other guys got some random DNPs, let's see, back before Christmas. So Wednesday the 19th and Friday the 21st there for Malik Monk. And what the article said is the coaches had been taking the younger players out and working them out pretty hard before the games, and then they just weren't playing them. So what I started thinking about is, gosh, why are you going to do that? And I thought, okay, because it didn't say why. But I thought here are reasons why that's a good thing, because perhaps they're looking up at the schedule. I mean, we've got they had a back-to-back here against Brooklyn. Maybe they were saying, all right, we want you to work on, I don't know, pick something, the pick and roll. And we're going to practice it with you doing X, Y, and Z when it happens. And then when this game happens, this is going to be our tertiary play, and we're going to run this, every couple times down the floor, and we want to see how it works. So they were probably implementing something that they wanted some of the younger guys to work on in specific situations. So I thought that was an interesting thing. And then coming back here, Monk's played 15, 23, and then whatever he ends up with on Friday, he's trending towards probably about another 15 minutes. So he could be back in the mix for that. But I just, again, found that to be something intriguing. Anything else at shooting guard, Adam, outside of the guy who is going to be making a ton of my lineups? He's back in my life, not with the Wizards. No, he's with Phoenix. But at 4,400, Kelly Oubre going against Denver here. That is an appealing price point, I think, on DraftKings.
I'm scared about Oubre. They just have so many wings out there. His minutes have kind of been all over the place. He played, I think it was 18 in Phoenix's last game. Obviously we don't know yet what happened on Friday, but yeah, I mean, that's a scary price point for me. I think Jordan Clarkson, if depending on who's out, I think Clarkson or Alec Burks are going to be interesting. Again, just a really, really nice matchup against Atlanta.
All right, well, if we're going to take the wings, TJ Warren, 6,400. That seems like a nice price. Kent Bazemore at 6,500. He is going against Cleveland, both Atlanta and Cleveland on back-to-backs. And then Danilo Gallinari, the oft-forgotten man in the middle here. He is on a back-to-back, as are the San Antonio Spurs. But this one for the Clippers, they played the Lakers, so they will not be traveling because it's in the Staples Center. And again, they will be welcoming in San Antonio. What do you like amongst these guys? For me, it's probably Warren and Gallinari, but I like just for $100 more Bazemore as a bit of a pivot there.
Yeah, I like Gallinari. I mentioned it on the Deeper Dive show yesterday with Lofty, but I was kind of surprised. I went back and I looked at the Clippers' numbers over the last month, and Gallinari is always someone that I seem to be higher on than the field. And I was kind of just looking into stuff. He's actually averaged the exact same DraftKings points per minute as Montrezl Harrell has, but he's also averaging 7 to 8 minutes more per game than Harrell. I just thought it was interesting because now you basically have them at similar price points, and Harrell is just the guy that everyone loves because he's rewarded them in the past. But really, Gallinari I think is just a better play, and you get small forward eligibility with Gallinari, so I think he's a really appealing option here. Kevin Durant, against Portland, same thing I said about Steph Curry applies to Durant, where he's more productive without Curry on the floor. Now he's getting more minutes without him. If you can find a way to get Durant into your lineups, I think that's a really good idea.
All right, let's use this next guy as a launching board to get us on over there to power forward. Reminder, if you have not yet signed up for Osmo, you can do so by using the promo code EarlyBird and try us out for 7 days for free. All you got to do is go to osmo.com. Up in the upper right corner, select the Join tab. Once you're in there, pick a package. Make sure you get one with the Fantasy Cruncher add-on. Fill in your information. The last comment or the last field will be promo code. Use EarlyBird, all one word, and you will get 7 free days of that package. Now, you can cancel up to any time during those 7 days and still get the 7 days and not have to worry about a recurring billing. So we don't want to catch you off guard with that, but that's a nice way to check us out for free, for no problems, for the good stuff. And the good stuff is really coming up because golf is here, or we'll be right around the corner. We got a short man field coming up next week, and then we're starting to get so close to the Hawaii swing. Here we are yet again. Boy, it just never seems to stop, the golf. Adam, here's one I'm going to tee you up with. Mo Harkless. You and I had talked about him a little bit, and you said, hey, what have his minutes been like? I think he may have some opportunities to guard someone like Kevin Durant. Well, in that last game where they played, he got 31 minutes. He put up 29 fantasy points, filled the box score nicely with 11 points, 8 boards, 2 blocks, 2 steals, but he's 3,600. I would take 3,600 of Mo Harkless at home for 31 minutes and let the chips fall where they may. What do you want to do with Mo, and then what'll that help get us at the top?
Yeah, I think it's a fine value play. Definitely keep in mind that 5 of those minutes were in overtime, so 26 in regulation, still fine for 3,600. You have to have some things break right as far as defensive stats, maybe some extra rebounding or whatever, but he at least has a purpose for being on the floor. Evan Turner is awful and doesn't seem to be taking any minutes. Doesn't really seem to be taking minutes away from him right now, so that's good at least. It's not like it's a core play, but I think that there is some value there.
All right, here's what could be a core play. It is a back-to-back, but it is LaMarcus Aldridge, 7,100. This will be the third time the Spurs have taken on the Clippers. Through the first 2 games, he is averaging 32 minutes per game, 38 fantasy points per game. We know we rarely see him cresting over 40 fantasy points in his recent game logs, but damn, 7,100 against the Clips. I'm liking this one.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think the price tag is just too low, and we've even the last game against Denver, not the one on Friday, the one on Wednesday. The final score of the game, it was like an 8-point game, but if you actually look at how that game went, the Spurs went on, I think it was a 23-4 run at the beginning, from like the beginning to the middle of the fourth quarter. And Aldridge ended up playing 2-3 minutes in the fourth quarter, maybe. So you got full run from DeMar DeRozan, who had come in a little bit earlier, but Aldridge didn't get really any fourth quarter minutes, still played 32 minutes. So I think that projecting Aldridge for 32 to 34 minutes here is probably the way to go. He has almost a 29% usage rate over the last month. He's the leading rebounder on this team. It's a Clippers front court that he should have success against. There's no reason for me not to like Aldridge at 7,100.
And then up at the top, decision points here, Anthony Davis for $1,500 less. Kevin Durant. You think either of those guys will be in your life on Saturday night?
More likely to have Durant than Davis. If I'm going up to that Davis price point, I'm going to just keep going to James Harden. I don't think it was a mistake the first 3 times, even though it didn't really work out. I'm going to keep going there. So it'll be tough for me to get to Davis. Durant, I think, is fine. The price tag's still, appealing. But I think Julius Randle, at least where he's a power forward on DraftKings at 7,800, is a really, really good play here against Houston.
All right, little quick plug here. This one's a freebie. It's out there on the front page of awesemo.com. Look for the $1 Million Baller Yahoo article for Week 17 NFL. They are running back for the third week their lovely contest where they guarantee $250,000 of extra prizes. They are bringing in $750,000 and paying out $1 million. Use the promo code AWESEMO when you sign up there at Yahoo, making your first deposit. You can already be signed up at Yahoo, but making your first DFS deposit, you can use the promo code AWESEMO, and they will match your first $30 deposit up to $30 in Yahoo player points, which are available for immediate use. So, for example, if you wanted to use that promo code and you put in $30, you would be able to get 3 tickets in that $1 Million Baller. It is just a 10-entry max there. It is a lot of fun. Heck, even I did well there last week, winning $2,000 with a 25th place finish. Adam, let's talk about the lucky number 11. Let's talk about Nikola Jokic. Let's see. The last time he played Phoenix, he was 11 for 11 from the field. He was 10 for 11 from the free throw line. He had 11 rebounds, 11 assists, 81 DraftKings points. What do you want to do with him at 9,500 on a back-to-back here? But what is clearly a phenomenal matchup for him.
I love Jokic here. I'm really hoping that he has a disappointing game against the Spurs on Friday, in part because I don't have much of him on this slate, and also just because it'll keep his ownership down against Phoenix. It's just a really good matchup against one of the worst rebounding teams and one of the worst defenses for a guy in Jokic, who obviously is a very good scorer. He's a phenomenal passer, and he is a good rebounder. Like, there's just no reason to think that he doesn't just go absolutely nuts in this spot. And his minutes have been trending up as well. Maybe a little bit of a concern because of the back-to-back, but with Paul Millsap out and you have Mason Plumlee starting alongside him, there's only so many places those minutes can go. And we've seen Jokic trending up to like 34 to 36 minutes as opposed to the 32 to 34 he had played for a lot of the season. So I absolutely love Jokic here.
All right. That's probably going to about do it for us. There's a bunch of other options here, but we'll want to let Adam dive into the, wait for it, analysis in the deep dive, which is the article series, the premium article series that Adam and Laffy take turns writing. Saturdays are Adam's day, so you will get that article in the afternoon Saturday, breaking down all of the pertinent matchups in key plays. And Adam, you've added something new. You've put your own little twist on this. You want to tell the readers what you're doing with your player analysis?
Yeah, I've just been including my projections as of the time that I'm writing, including my projections, including the target score that I want that player to hit based on their price point on DraftKings and FanDuel, and then including the percentage of the time that I think they get there based on my projections. So it just, I think, helps put in the context how I feel about players. A lot of times when you read these articles where there's just a bunch of names, it can be tough to gauge how someone really feels about them. So it just helps me to kind of put context, and it should help you get an idea of where I think that they're going to play as far as minutes, how I think they're going to produce, and how likely I think they are to actually be a good tournament play.
All right. With that, gamers, we're going to get on out of here. Reminder on the YouTube channel over there at Awesemo, we will be breaking down everything game by game at a much more leisurely pace at 11 o'clock Saturday morning. So be sure to check that out. If you want to follow Adam on Twitter, it is at ShipMyMoneyDFS. I am at EMACDFS, and it is Awesemo_COM on the Twitter machine. With that, gamers, good luck.